This podcast contains strong language and adult themes.
Date Night China explores life and love for better relationships in China. Every week, we hear from different guests and dive into dating, relationships, mental health, and how both expats and Chinese people connect with each other here in China.
Join the Date Night community through our podcast and events in Beijing and Shanghai, and catch up on all the latest stories on our official WeChat account.
Find our account on WeChat by searching Date Night China, no spaces, no capital letters. You can also join our WeChat group by adding Rachel, me, on WeChat. You can search Rachel Weiss 22, RACHEL WEISS 22.
And now for this week's episode. And welcome back to this week's episode of Date Night China. So we've all heard of the expat exodus and know many foreigners who are leaving China at this moment. Moving to a new country is challenging on your own, but moving with a partner can make this experience even more challenging, with variables to consider such as different home countries, visas, and finances, and your own goals, careers, and personalities. How will moving change your relationship, and how do you deal with those challenges?
So Morag from Scotland and Waldo from South Africa are an expat couple leaving China at the end of November this year. They are joining the podcast this week to talk about how they prepared to leave China and the conversations and considerations you need to take as a couple. So welcome, Morag and Waldo.
Hello.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
We're excited.
And we should let everybody know that Waldo and Morag are longtime friends of ours. You know, pretty much family. We have a lot of great guests. We have a lot of great guests that come on that we sort of like we meet, don't we? And then they become friends. And
Yeah.
we've had some friends come on, but you guys, you know, OG.
We're the OG.
Yeah. We're the dream team.
From the dream team. You know,
Yeah.
COVID buddies. We've seen it all. We've been here for each other.
Yeah.
Through thick and thin.
It's been really cool. Like, we've had these COVID years together, and we've been really tight doing Christmases, Thanksgivings, holidays, birthdays. And Nathan and I are distraught that you're leaving.
So distraught.
And I think we're not the only ones, though, experiencing expat friends leaving China now. I feel like there's, like, several goodbye parties every single month. It's just kind of a part of life.
Can you remember, like, May, June, there was, like, a fuck ton of parties. Like, it was, you almost felt like, wow, you know, I know so many people, but it's the sheer amount of people that were leaving. There was like a month, I think, where I had the option of 2 or 3 parties every week.
Yeah. It is quite insane. It's gonna be that way again, I think, over the next couple of months. I think the end of the year there are
Coming
a
up
lot
to
more
Chinese
people.
New Year. Yeah.
A lot of people
There's
leaving
way
again.
more people, like this month especially. But we're excited to talk to you guys because I think there's a lot of big steps that go into it with leaving China. Like, I've had a lot of friends have to go through the process figuring out your next steps, where you're going, what are you going to do? But you guys are also a couple, so there's a lot to consider with that as well. You're not just making that decision for yourself, you're talking to each other. But first, before we get into all of that, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves? We'll start with you, Morag. Where are you from? How long have you been in China? What do you do here? You know, the usual stuff.
Yeah, sure. I'm Morag. I'm from Scotland, as you introduced already. I did work for CGTN alongside Rachel, actually.
Colleagues, yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm unemployed as of last Friday, so that's weird to now have nothing to do until we leave at the end of the month. So yeah, I don't know what's next.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll get into that more.
Yeah.
How about you, Waldo?
I'm Waldo. I've been here for 4 years. And it's been 4 good years. And but now, you know, making this decision, I'm quite happy with the decision we've made to leave. I'm a teacher. You know, I've been teaching here for 4 years, and and I think I said I'm from South Africa. Yeah.
You are?
But like, I mean, I don't know if people at home, they actually get the gravitas, or people that are in China or have been to China, they understand. But I think you're not just leaving like one place to another place, so you're not just going on holiday. Leaving China is a whole other fucking thing. Like, you know, it's way bigger than me leaving the West. When I left England to come here, I thought that was a big deal, but whoa, no, like when me leaving China to go back or wherever I go, it seems just like such a bigger deal in my mind. Is that, I mean, how do you compare it? Like, you leaving your homes to come here, is that greater or less of a deal than you leaving here to go wherever next.
I mean, I think it's a bit of the opposite because we actually spoke about it before we came. It's like, okay, wait, back up, where you started. Coming to China wasn't that of a big deal. It was more of you packed your things up, and within 2 months,
You're kind of
I was in China within 2 months of quitting my job, getting a job here, and in 2 months getting the visa, and I was in China. But like I said, we spoke about it earlier before we came. It's like, you've built up such a comfort, China has this comfort zone that it's a bit, I think, a little bit more difficult leaving China now than what it was coming, because China has given you that comfort zone. You've had the apartment, your way to school, your way back, how long it's going to take you to get to places, and, you have a good salary. So I think it's harder leaving.
And not just about like the comfortable life that we all know China is, but also the last 3 years have been this incredible time where none of us have been able to go home for Christmas, for Thanksgiving. And I think before COVID happened, China was much more of a like, you could fly in, you could fly out. Like every holiday we were all traveling. Yeah. But the last 3 years, I mean, we all met over COVID, and we've been together every weekend, every spare minute, every birthday, every Christmas. And that's really hard to walk away from, because this is the closest I've been to people and the longest I've spent in a place, probably since university or even school. So I do think it's going to be a massive wrench. And for anyone leaving, I think it is a massive wrench, because God, like, this is our family that we've had for 3 years. Yeah. And how do you say goodbye to that?
And I'm not even aware of like the sort of like, I don't know, any residual trauma from like being here for locked in China for 3 years.
PTSD for sure.
The PTSD of like COVID and all that stuff. I don't know how I'll feel, because I'm going, on holiday, back to the UK for December, and I don't know how it's going to be to live in like a post-COVID West. I don't even know what that looks like.
I think that's a big thing people talk about, though, is the reverse culture shock, right? You're like leaving this way of life you've learned to adapt to in China, which was really hard the first 3 months, and then you figured it out. You're like, I know Didi, I know my Meituan, I know my favorite shops, I know my restaurants, I know everything. And then you're like suddenly back in a world where you're like, I can eavesdrop on every conversation, and I can't just be pushing people around on the street, So I'm sure the reverse culture shock.
I can't just like be annoyed at like somebody driving and just say like under my breath very loudly say what a cunt, and be safe in the knowledge that they didn't understand me. Like when I go back, I'll have to just like keep those like thoughts to myself.
You're gonna have a hard time with that, I think.
I'm like, cunt. Oh, what'd you say? I'm like, oh fuck, you understand me?
No, but you'll be the cunt, because you'll be jaywalking all over and like crossing zebra crossings when a car's already halfway over, and they're gonna be like, "Guy, have you not read the highway code?" And you're like, "Sorry, I've lived in China for like 3 years. I don't know the way world works."
I'll be in a restaurant and I won't be politely sticking my hand up trying to get the attention. I'll be shouting,
that'll be so rude back home.
Yeah.
But to back people up to your relationship, let's give people a very quick rundown of when you met, how did you meet, and what has gotten you to this point where you're feeling this desire to leave China.
So we met, the romantic way of saying it is we were a quarantine romance.
Yeah.
Which in layman's terms means we met on Tinder.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
We actually both came back. Was it the same day?
It wasn't the same. It was 1 day difference. You came 1 day before I did.
Came back to China. So like it was very early 2020. COVID had just kicked off. I guess we were both retrospectively making our minds up whether to leave China or come back. Yeah. And we both luckily came back.
Yeah, we both were in different... You were in Seoul, I think, and I was in Vietnam, and we both... got to an airport and they gave you the choice of you fly back to your home country or you go back to China. And luckily for us both, we chose, to come back to China. And when we got back, we were both put in, quarantine, but, just advised you to stay home. And, and what do you do when you're in quarantine and you're bored? You see what Tinder's about. So you download Tinder, and I guess we both swiped on each other, and that,
You guess.
Yeah, oh, wow. Okay. I don't guess.
Right away, was it like, ooh, let's just have fun and see where things go? It's a stressful time. Or what was the pace of it? Was it like, let's keep it casual and see where it goes? Or
we both had 10 days left, about 10 days odd about 10 days left in quarantine.
So,
So it
wanted to
wasn't,
meet
we
up
couldn't break
after.
out, to go meet each other. It couldn't be like, yeah, see you tonight. So we kept it for about 10 days. We just spoke on Tinder. And then obviously eventually
Ooh,
got each
building
other's
up the-
WeChat.
I
And
think
then,
we got each other's WeChat. Dave.
yeah,
I think-
okay, we got it off the bat. But
Was I talking to you again like before you met Waldo? I just remember.
Yeah, I broke out of quarantine. I didn't break out of quarantine. My first night back in Beijing, and we went out.
But like, I remember you being thirsty as fuck about you talking about that date. It's like you were fucking chopping at the bit. You know, you were thirsty as fuck. I don't know if did she play it cool on the first date, because I assure you she wasn't.
well, we were going to meet it was the 14th of February on
Yeah,
Valentine's.
So the first day we were going to both get out of the kind of advised quarantine was Valentine's Day. And we were like, no, absolutely not. There's too much pressure. And so then we ended up meeting very hungover on the 15th. Because we both gone out separately.
You both went out separately, anyways.
Yeah, we both went out and then...
And I was like, oh, I want to go for a cute date in the Hutongs. And then the bar we wanted to go to didn't open till 5. So I'd messaged him at 2 saying, do you want to go for a pre-date drink at Paddy's? And then we stayed there all night and then went to locals.
We didn't end up going
We
to
were
the
basic
Tongs anyway.
bitches.
Yeah.
It's like a perfect classic first meetup.
Yeah.
No, very low key and fun.
It was.
No
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah. We met at Paddy's. She was there first. She bought the beers, and then as I walked in, she had the finger guns up, and that's when I knew.
classic Morag.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the classic
that was-
Morag with the finger guns,
This is the one.
and I was like, yeah, this could be the one. This could be the one.
Aw.
And so yeah, it all started from there. We spent the night in Paddy's, and then we went to the locals. We didn't make it to the Tongs.
You hit up all those classic expat spots right from the beginning.
Yeah, we got it out the way.
Alright.
We got it.
When it was empty.
And how did it progress from there? Was it like, okay, how did you get, like, we can give people the very quick kind of elevator speech version, but you guys
Oh no, I
very
had to
quickly
work.
were like,
I had to work hard for it.
okay.
Yeah, no, I did. I worked hard for it.
You did.
Yeah, no, I did.
But everything
Hands down,
happened
I
very
did.
quickly. I think on our second date, we were both like, we want to... I was like, I don't want anything serious unless it's like the one,
The
you know?
thing.
Unless it's like, I'm leaving the country with this person and like there's a future. I'm not bothered about dating around. Like, it's great to be friends. Like, we can keep it casual and just date, but let's not waste each other's time here. So we'd had those conversations quite early, and I think we moved in within like 3 months. I think it was
Wow.
really
Was that-
early
wow.
that we
No,
moved
but it
in.
was
How quick
first.
it was.
Yeah, it was first 2 months of
of just
knowing
dating,
each other,
yeah.
and then 3 months of dating, and then we moved in
Super
with
quick.
it. Yeah, and it worked out. You know,
It did work out. Yeah,
I've
It
never-
has worked out. I mean,
Yeah.
look, like here you are now.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
leaving
leaving,
China
yeah,
together.
That's exactly what we said on our second date. So
I love it. But I think you guys are both very, from what we've learned and seen as you guys as a couple, I think you guys are both very good with goals and challenges. And that can maybe come into play with your talks with leaving China. When did you both first start feeling the desire to leave China? And did it actually happen at the same time? Because you guys both have different career paths, different jobs, different
Yeah.
things. Did
And
it
also,
line
like,
up?
because if you were single, you would just have that urge and you'd like contemplate it and then you would put it into action. But now you've got a whole other person, a whole other life where it's like, oh, I'm thinking this. So, yeah, talk us through that initial spark of, I need to leave, therefore we need to leave. Like, how did that come about?
So originally, I mean, we'd had this lofty plan that we were going to cycle back to the UK from China, but there was no clear date. It was just kind of like, in the future, we'd really like to do this. I think this time last year, I like started really freaking
Yeah,
out,
you-
and I was
yeah,
like,
you did.
I need to leave. Like, I need a date. Like, I need to know that we're doing this. I was definitely the first one. Like, you would
Yeah.
have been quite happy to stay.
Yeah, I would have stayed. I would have stayed probably longer, but I mean, once you told me that you would like to leave, obviously I wondered. Oh, how would it be to leave? And then eventually my mind made up itself, if I could say. I thought, yeah, maybe it is time to leave. Maybe it is a good time to leave. And it slowly, my decision happened, but it happened more when we kind of, I'm all about visualizing things. So when excuse me, when Morag said she wants to leave, so I thought, okay, let's make up a goal what we have to save before we have to leave to go do something. So once we did that, I felt it became more clear to me that, wow, maybe I also want to leave.
I guess it was like, yeah, I was quite happy to say last summer, I could have left then. And Waldo was saying next summer. And we kind of came up with the middle ground, which was Christmas. We get to see our families. And for me, I just needed a date. With a date, I would be happy because I think a lot of people feel this way in China. Like you're kind of boxed in, especially with everything that's been going on with lockdowns and stuff. And you were much more, you needed a monetary goal that you could reach before leaving.
Yeah.
So we kind of combined those, where it's like you had the money side up on the wall, and I had the date up on the wall,
and we
countdown. Could see that the money was getting closer to the date.
Oh wow!
And it was just kind of like it made us both feel comfortable with that decision, because, yeah, I mean, originally you were uncomfortable with leaving so soon.
Yeah, for the sake that COVID put me back, the 3 months of COVID, not getting paid. I'm sure that happened to a lot of people. That, it put me back in terms of my goals of savings. So, I needed to do that first before I could leave. And yeah, once that was, once I got to the goal, we decided on a goal of, I'm talking in terms of money, we both decided on a goal like, how much money do we need for, you called it a buffer, if we leave, we want to have a bit of a few months sabbatical, whether it's to go we're planning to do a cycle, but what is the buffer of the amount we need to get? And once we have that money, then, we can leave.
Start planning.
Yeah, we can leave comfortably. And once we got to that goal, then all the decisions fell in place. We were like, okay, let's leave December. I mean, what did you say? December 30?
Originally, we were like, we'll leave on New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
and we'll see the fireworks, even though there's no fireworks in China for New Year's.
And then, and then I came back home one day and I was like, nah, we're going to leave end of November.
I think that's so cool, though. We've been over to your apartment. We've seen the thing on the wall.
You've seen it.
I think
so
that's
impressive.
a really impressive thing,
impressive.
Especially for a couple anyway. I think you guys have always been very open with each other about financial goals, sharing that, because it can be a bit like of a touchy thing to talk about sometimes with, especially with your partner. It's a taboo thing, even if you are really close with somebody, because you're like, ooh, financials, and are we saving up together? What are we doing with this money together?
It is tough.
And I think you guys have been so honest in like saying this is a really important goal because money does provide a buffer. And if you're moving unexpected costs, it's giving yourself time. That's something Nathan and I talk about as well. Like if we had to leave China, moving costs, the unknown of what's going to happen in the future. I think that's really smart planning on your part.
Yeah.
I think that was all Waldo, because like I'm much more like at the drop of a hat, I'll be like, everything will work its way out. I could leave tomorrow and we'll just figure it out.
Oh.
But that's also not fair to do to another person.
Mate.
If like Waldo, you're much more particular about like you want to plan, you want to know, how are we going to survive? How are we going to pay for this?
This is the thing, though. I mean, like, there's been, over the past couple of years, there's been, like, especially through COVID, I've known so many people that have just think, I've been here for X amount of years, and now's the time to go home. When you going? Oh, like, next month. And I'm just like, I'm just beside myself. It's like, you just on a drop of a hat, in a month, you think you're going to go back to wherever the fuck it is, and everything's gonna be fine. Like, like the buffer of leaving China, and like it's not gonna be like.
I think
the salary, the rent, the wage, like
it's just spiraling now.
When I hear people are just like, oh, I'm just gonna go back, it gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
Thinking that it's like, what are you doing to yourself?
It is different. I mean, I understand that stress, and especially when you're thinking about so many things. But also, if you are your own self, we've known a lot of just people going by themselves back home. I
still think it's fucking nuts.
They've got.
I still
I think it's nuts too, but I think it depends on your personal situation, right?
I think sounds like a great idea. If you're thinking and you're saying
family, some people have really good things or like time and buffer that they can rely on. But I think it changes. It's a huge game changer when you're with somebody, especially from a different country or from different backgrounds. You have to navigate the visas. You have to think about somebody else that you're like, oh my God, it's not just me I have to worry about. If it's just you, I think you can fuck off a lot easier, right? You can just like, all right, I'm just going to go home. I'll live with my parents for a bit. It's fine. I can make it work.
Well, it's also worrying about someone else's goals as well. Like, there was a lot of talk about, like, what are our goals of leaving China, right? Like,
Did you even know at the time? You're like, shit, I've not thought about that. Or were you very clear? Or did you have to have a few conversations? It's like, I need to sit and think about this, and then I'll get back to you.
I don't know. We were very quite, Morag was very clear because, I mean, at the beginning, it was more of I'm leaving China because she wants to leave China. At the beginning, when the conversation all started, it felt like, oh, okay, I'm leaving because Morag wants to leave. But then the more I thought about it, you come to terms, you feel like, oh, actually, I do want to leave, but I don't know what my point was. Wait,
yeah. What did you feel like after you and Morag talked about it a bit and you had time to wrap your mind around it? What did you
No,
think
it was
about
more
in your
like,
future?
then, she gave me she said, all right, but the next place we go to, is on you. So we both leave China, but where we go next is basically my choice. But with her input, I can't put us in.
Yeah.
And this is why, hopefully our next destination would be North Africa, Central Africa, where I hopefully can get a teaching job, but where, she could also get a job, so.
Yeah, it's like give and take with anything. And I think that's something in terms of, like, my goal was just to leave China, but then you're with another person and their goals are slightly different, and you're much more like you're a teacher by trade. You want to be at school next year, September, whereas I'm quite happy flitting around. So you have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit more structured. I need a job.
You are.
I could not have a job because I would sleep all day.
And you couldn't be free.
And I'd run and I'll sleep and run and sleep and run. That's all I'll do all day long is just sleep and run.
But
it would be a cheap life, though.
I understand that, though, because I remember in my, early 30s, before I came to China in my early 30s, I jumped from one job to, like, nothing, thinking I'll figure it out. And I did, and I eventually got this job here, but it took a lot longer to get this job in China. And that feeling of jumping from one ship just into open water, it's like, I don't know if I'd want to do that again. I'd have to have, like, a really compelling reason to do it, but, like, ideally you jump from one ship to another ship, but, like, are you more content of, like, you're focused on what you're really valuing right now is leaving China so you can just have space and freedom just to work out, just to have some distance from everything, and you've built up this buffer that you're just happy that it's like, okay, I just need the space to have space from all the shit from China.
Space.
I think this time last year, it really was just, I felt very boxed in. In terms of what's next or why I want to leave, I do just think it's time to go somewhere new. I think North Africa, like, I'm happy anywhere. Like, I never thought I'd end up in Africa, but I never thought I'd end up in China, So I'm kind of like along for the ride. I think it'll be really fun. And if you get a really good job in Africa, I'll figure something journalism-y out.
Yeah, back to what you said. For me, I want to jump from one ship to the next ship. So what made that easier is that we built up a buffer for that. If I can't jump from one ship to another ship,
You've got money flow.
There's something that can, until I get to that next ship.
Yeah.
There is something, there's money that we've saved.
Which is smart, yeah.
We've saved up together, and it's our shared money, our money, but we both have our savings, and that's, that's something that, I don't want Morag to touch her savings, and I don't want to touch my savings because we both chose the life of being an expat, and with that comes, you sign out from your retirement fund or retirement annuity back at home. So, all the money you make as an expat is basically for your retirement.
Yeah.
So, that's why I was very adamant on, saving, saving for this buffer period so that we have shared money until, I guess, the next ship comes by and off we go. So that was something I was quite.
I'm really grateful that you kind of taught me that. I mean, the last 2 years is the first time I've ever saved money. And I know you're the same, Rachel. Like, me and you moved the same year to China.
It's so interesting because, like, we came at a time where it was like, well, I've got this paycheck.
Yeah.
I'm going to travel. I would spend my money on everything, like traveling.
Like, go to Thailand
experiences.
for a week. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, COVID is when I really first started saving money. which is interesting. But like, so for you, were you kind of motivated by Waldo saving money? Like, oh, okay, like he's got these goals, like I can just follow this lead and also save money?
Yeah, I think I just realized, like, wow, what an idiot I've been. Like, I can still live the best life that I'm living here. I don't need to spend my whole paycheck. But, I mean, up until COVID, I was like, well, I've still got money left. I'll buy some rounds at the bar, and you know, like, what's your most
Everybody
expensive
spent
tequila?
so much money during COVID times.
Oh
you know,
my
Well,
God.
we thought it was the end of days.
We did,
feel
but
like
we had one friend who, like, I think he tallied up his February 2020 total bill.
Oh, is that Sam?
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
20,000 RMB.
No.
Yes, because he was the guy who would also buy rounds for
He
people at the
did.
bar, and you're just out thinking like whatever, and also you were like making new
It was
friends.
unprecedented, wasn't it? Like we've not
Like-
lived like a time like this, like a global pandemic.
I
We're
think it was
like,
just social
we don't know what the
changes in
fuck's going
China
on.
too. Like friend groups changed. A lot of people didn't come back, couldn't get back in. It was
Yeah.
like, what's going on? Everybody was just like out, like trying to live their best life.
It was like Freshers Week, but for like 6
for,
weeks.
for a long time.
For adults.
I was the
with
most
money.
the
Oh my
most
God.
ill I've ever been during that period. I was just hungover or drunk, and there was no in
Sometimes
between.
both, and you just keep carrying on.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get back on it.
I don't
know.
think I ate a vegetable that whole time. They were scarce, hey? Alcohol was plentiful. Vegetables were scarce.
So would you say? I mean, like, so the thing is about like China is it is a bit of a bubble, and when I think about like your career, or if you said somebody back home, this is what I worry about. So I don't know if I think I'm projecting right now. That like I can say I've done X, Y, and Z in China, but they might have no reference of what that is. Did that impact your decisions about your career? Thinking, okay, I could say I've done this for 4 years or 3 years or whatever it is here. But have you had those concerns, and has that influenced where you want to take your lives and career next?
Oh man, it's a massive stress. We don't know. If someone's looking for a state media journalist in another country and a teacher, let us know. I mean, it is a massive stress. We still don't know what's next. So we've got the buffer.
And I'm applying for jobs all over the world, actually,
Anywhere.
hoping that I land one in Central Africa. But I mean,
It is a worry because the China bubble, like we've said already, like it is comfortable. You kind of get, it sounds so bizarre that you're comfortable in China, but especially during COVID, like it has been so relaxed and nothing's really changed, and everything's fine. Like it is of course a risk to move outside of that, but also, I mean, we were even speaking about this yesterday, maybe. Like if you don't put yourself outside of that, you're never going to know. And like, yeah, you've got 20% reservation and 80% wanting to do it. That 20% reservation is like the comfort and the knowledge that like you're going to have a job, you're going to have a nice apartment, you're going to have all this stuff. Like our relationship works here. We've never gone out into the real world as far as outside of China goes.
Yeah.
So it is like stepping off into the unknown, but it's also super exciting. Like, there's a lot of stress that
exciting.
comes with it, for sure.
Does it feel like that, like stepping out? Because like this is what sometimes irks me a little bit when people talk to me back home, because to see the photos and, you can judge a lot about a person's life if you're just looking at Instagram or something like that. And this idea of like, oh, you're going out to the real world. And it's like, well, I work, I've got stress, I do these things, I'm living a life, you know what I mean? I'm not just... You can live a little bit more luxurious.
My family thinks
here.
that too. They're like, you're just traveling all the time, but there's a lot more to it.
You've still got a life. You know?
I think, but especially I think that lens gets applied to couples in a relationship. I've heard this so many times from friends or people leaving, even people like just making little comments like, oh, you're in a relationship and you met in China. You're in the China bubble. But once you leave China, it's actually different from what life is like inside China. So have you guys heard this kind of phrase before about the China bubble and what that means for a relationship outside of it? I think there's a lot of cynical people in our
There
Dana China
are
group.
a lot of cynical people. Like someone said it to me the other day. Actually, it was like, oh, a lot of relationships fail when they leave China because there's a lot of other influences. There's a lot of things that change, and that's of course. But I think that's the same with any couple going anywhere or doing anything.
Yeah.
And like we have already had a lot of the stress in terms of like, okay, we're both from different countries, so our passports are different, visas are complicated, That was something that's new to me. Being from the UK, I think I was very naive to how difficult it would be.
Other people's passports are.
Yeah, to apply for visas in a pandemic. And I mean, even your UK visa that was meant to take 2 weeks took 3 months. And, you know, we've kind of had to go through some stress already with that. I mean, who knows what's going to happen on the other side, right? But can you stay in the bubble forever just
Out of
hoping,
fear. Yeah.
hoping that,
Yeah.
thinking like, well, if we leave this
Yeah.
bubble, then maybe it won't work out and maybe we won't stay together or maybe like something bad will happen. Do you want to stay in the bubble? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think Rachel said it earlier. You're still working, yeah. You still got a job. You're still facing stresses. What makes it different from having that stress here or having that stress in a different country? You still have your daily stresses.
Yeah, and I think that like the success or like failure of a relationship, I think it's not exactly the China bubble. It's like those stressors, but it's like how you communicate and how you handle those things. What it comes down to is your personalities and like how you're handling the conflict and talking to each other.
Yeah.
So
It's an easy scapegoat to say, oh, the reason why we didn't succeed is because, you know, it was the China bubble. Like, maybe those couples didn't talk enough.
I think some people are cynical too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a way to do it. Yeah, of course there's a way.
It's
like
I don't know. It's like the equivalent of saying, oh well, Mercury was in retrograde. Like
Yeah, maybe it was.
yeah, maybe it was. Or maybe you just didn't talk enough. I don't
Yeah.
know. Or maybe.
yeah. Can we ask you guys then? Have there been any really particularly difficult conversations with moving and leaving China? Maybe anything that's had any certain kind of like conflict that you've had to come together and figure out, oh, we talk in different ways, we communicate in different ways, and the way we handle this conversation, I guess it's also a larger conversation about your relationship conflict and communication styles as well. Are you the
Yeah.
A
same?
lot of
I guess it's not just about leaving China. I mean, when we did start dating, I wouldn't talk about a lot of things where Morag would want to talk about a lot of things. So, we had to work out a lot of those things where, I had to compromise and, I had to talk a little bit more and Morag had to relax a little bit more.
Compromise and
Yeah,
relax a little
compromise and
bit.
just relax a little
Yeah.
bit more because, maybe, I'll talk when I can't say when I feel like it, but when I think, now I've worked through it and now it's the time to talk about it. So, it's not just about leaving China. It was like, we've worked through all those things before we've made the decision to leave China.
And talking about China, I think, obviously there's two sides of it. One of us wanted to leave earlier, one of us wanted to leave later. There was a lot of pressure with like visa and whose family do we go and see first? And all these things which are like big and you need like
things.
so many different plans in case plan A doesn't work, then you need plan B, and how do you deal with that and how does the other person feel about that? And so there was a lot of communicating about it. And yeah, I get stressy. Like I'm definitely an anxious person. So I get really anxious about stuff that might not even happen. Like we're still on plan B. We don't need plan C, D, E, F, G, whatever. But
Yeah, where
I've got plan to Z sorted
and I'm
already.
plan A and plan B.
Yeah.
And I was just gotta, I only need 2 plans because one of them are gonna,
Well,
one of
now
them
we
are
do
gonna
need a
sink, one of
plan
them are gonna
C.
work.
We do need a plan C still because plan B is still, touch and go.
But I think what you knowing you two and seeing that journey and that moment of okay, we are going to be leaving in the near distant future, whatever, and now that is coming upon us now, and we're living that and in the next couple of weeks. But it's a good blueprint. You know what I mean? I think it's a great blueprint. And when we finally get to that point, I'm putting that stuff in place now, like trying to save and like buffer and all those things. I think what you guys have done about the finances as well, and then talking it out, and then like saying, okay, well, this is the general idea, because you can't be so certain that this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And we need to do this, and this, and it'll all work out perfectly fine. It needs to be flexible, but to be completely flexible to the point of having no ambition of what you're going to do is just a recipe for failure in my eyes.
Yeah, you need to have a few plans in order. I mean, I mean, originally, right, we were cycling from here to the UK. That was plan A. And now it's changed a little bit. And now we kind of don't know after we visit our parents what we're going to do, because we're still waiting on a visa for Waldo.
Well,
To
apply for
we need
for a visa.
Be in South Africa to apply for his EU visa. And so you do need to be very, I don't know, able to go with the flow, which is something I'm learning through it. We're both like, at least we're together, you know, like at least we're leaving together. We see our families. And then whatever happens, it's an adventure, but with some goals or some plans.
But I liked what you said, though. Like, I think you guys have done a lot of self-reflection as well. Like, I'm this kind of person. Like you said, Morag, like, I'm kind of an anxious person. Like, that's me as well.
Yeah.
And it's good knowing that. You're like, okay, this is how I am going to respond to a situation and the kind of time and planning that I need for my peace of mind. But Waldo, also for you, you're like, okay, this is what I need when I'm ready to, like, talk, or my processing style. I think that's what any partnership has to, like, figure out. Like Nathan and I as well. Like, I think I'm very much, even if we have communication or conflict or something, I'm a long processor. I need some time to think about things. I need a lot of time to think about things, and I need time.
How do you feel about that, Nathan?
I need time to come back to it again, though, and be like, hey, Nath, can I bring this up to you again? But also, like, I didn't communicate it that very well, and I didn't bring it up at the right time. Like, the timing of when you bring up those conflicts again or whatever is really important as well. And learning his communication styles as well, we're quite different in those things.
I know I can, you know, for all, you know, we talk about communication, and even on the, you know, the podcast, we have so many people that talk about communication and being open and dealing with all these things. We meet so many couples and we learn so much from the people that come on. But, if, you know, like when we have those moments ourselves, you know, I'll still fall into that classical sort of like male role of just, we have a problem, okay, here's the solution, and we've fixed it. Great. So let's move on very quickly, because it kind of feels like we've talked it all out and we've just fixed the problem. You know, and I'll still fall into that, because it's just, I think it's just a natural thing to do, you know.
Yeah.
None of us have it figured out, though, right? Like, it's all a growing process.
It's a process continually. Like,
Yeah.
both of us have, like, we've all been in relationships now, like, 2+ years, and you're still, like, figuring out the best way to go about it and communicate and navigate. Different situations are going to come up, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it is easier said than done.
Yeah,
You just got to communicate. You just
Yeah.
gotta.
But maybe
Just
you're in a
communicate.
bad mood that day.
Blanket
You don't
phrase.
want to
Just
talk to anyone.
Exactly. Like, there's moods to take into consideration.
Environment.
And for sure, leaving is going to be hard, and we are going to be arseholes to each other. Like, we're both...
Yo, I didn't sign in for
He's
that.
like, whoa. But what happens, though, when you guys do have that kind of day? Because, so you guys are going to be leaving, and you're kind of each other's people now for the next few months, for the foreseeable future. Like, you've had this social circle community in China where you've got your friends, you've got your running community, and all these different groups where you can, like, rely and lean on with different people, community, and everything. And so you're leaving for a bit. That's kind of going to get swept out from under you, and you're each other's people. So how will you kind of navigate that when you're, like, having to rely on each other a bit more in that way?
We have kind of, again, we haven't figured everything out, but we have kind of figured out that, you know, one could get grumpy tonight. So, you know, you would say, like, yeah, there could be a chance that I could get grumpy tonight because of this, because I'm feeling a bit tired. So I could get grumpy. So I'm sorry.
And do you just say that? You're like, I might be grumpy
in
you know,
advance.
like in advance you would, and then, you know, we like to use the I'm on your team, you know, in the same corner. So it's just, you
That's
know,
a
you
good
kind
one
of,
when you're drunk.
that's a good one, you know.
Yeah, I'm on your side. And you're like, oh, okay.
You know, if you do feel like, oh, tonight might, you know, I'm going to drink a lot and you're going to drink a lot. So, you know, things could, you know, if a fight does come up, just know that I'm in your corner. Yeah, that's true. Okay, yes. So I'm sorry. Okay, we're sorry. But, you know, you apologize in advance. So I do feel like, again, you can't say you figured everything out, but, you know, we do try to figure out, we try to foresee what could go wrong and maybe apologize before it even happens. Because
that's
if you
a talent.
apologize,
That's a
because
talent.
if you apologize before, then it's like,
I always forget.
I
mean, no, you don't always forget.
I realize I'm grumpy as soon as, like, something offensive has left my mouth. So I've said something, I'm like, oh, I think I'm in a mood. and then I need to sit and dwell on it, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm a bit grumpy, but I don't realize it until it's already left the station.
It's amazing you guys have the foresight sometimes,
I
because
do not have the
we're bad at
Yeah,
predicting.
I try to have that
You do.
foresight. I try to have that foresight of what could possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
I think in
Wow.
terms of like being each other's people when we leave, I mean, of course, like it's going to be a massive strain on anyone's relationship if you go from this very social, you've got your different friend groups and similar friend groups, and go to something where you don't know anyone. But like to me, I think thank God I've got you wherever we go next, because like you're my best pal,
Yeah.
and we're gonna go out. We're gonna immediately find a running group. We will do stuff that's active.
I mean, you'll never find friends like us.
No,
so like,
and
you
that,
know,
I mean
true.
that is the
Just
biggest
kinda-
trench.
That's true, yeah.
That
Just
is
like-
the worst thing.
just remind yourselves of the crushing reality that you'll
It's
never find
true.
a closeness group of friends is the way that we are.
But I heard you're already doing interviews to replace us, so you know.
Trust and Meg. So like being there, like being each other's people. Essentially, Morag, you just need to take up golf.
Oh God, no! I don't want to.
You need to take up golf and.
But they run together already.
but-
You
but
guys do all the
Voldy-
challenges. You
Yeah.
run, you cycle, you do all the crazy things together already. Like,
And Waldo grew out his nails so he could come for a manicure with me.
Yeah.
So
Aw.
you know,
Again, you gotta compromise.
Yeah.
guys,
So-
it's hard. It'll be hard, Valdu, but you'll get through it. It'll
Yeah.
be-
Yeah. I mean,
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I
like
think
how
every
you talked about it, but before, like we've talked about this before, and you were just like, "Yeah, he's my teammate. Like
Yeah.
he's my partner," and I think that's a really cool way of looking at it. Like, yeah, I'm always gonna be on your side. I support you. Like, we've got each other's backs. Like, we're each other's people. Like, we've got it.
And I think that's the thing about, like, you know, I obviously wanted to leave first, and then Valdu got on my team, and now I'm going back to say, like, where do you want to go? Like, you pick the places, you apply for the jobs, and then let's see where you get the jobs. If I can also get a job there, like, I'm your teammate this time around. And I think that's, you know, sometimes you've got to sit down and be the teammate. Like, you can't be the lead. And I mean, we have had really tough conversations where I've been like, if you're just going along with this, and if you do want to stay, then that's also totally fine. But we need to talk about that realistically, because there's no point jumping on a ship just because. But I do think now it's a really balanced decision, and we
Yeah.
both got what we wanted to feel comfortable to move on to the next place.
Yeah.
And hey, China's always here.
So, for you guys just making a plan to leave, is there any advice you would give to other couples who are going to go? Did you guys, I know you talked about like a little bit of a timeline financially. Is there checklists you guys made? What do you think would help other couples from different countries, different variables to make a plan to leave to another country?
I think the main thing for me would be like plan way ahead of when you need to think that you need to
Prepare,
start
prepare.
planning. Like, we started planning about a year ago. We started saving about 2 years ago to leave. And actually, like, at the start of this year, I mean, it's now November. At the start of this year, we started looking to, like, Valdu's from South Africa, his visa situation. And we applied way too early for his UK visa. But as I said, it was, like, meant to take 2 weeks. It took 3 months. So, like, just give yourself so much time and have, like, 6 different options of things. So if the first option doesn't work out, that's okay. You've got plan B. And like, I know you would say I've got too many different options, but it is sometimes good to have.
yeah, I would definitely
Those continuation
say, like,
plans.
be prepared. You know, to if you choose to leave, don't just leave overnight. You know, make sure you have an exit plan and be prepared. You know, so you could leave with as little stress as possible. Because
Yeah.
if you make a plan and you're prepared, you're able to get on. You know, you're able to get onto the plane feeling excited to leave, not knowing, knowing that you have something. You know, you've prepared.
Like, I like that you said, like, the feeling of excitement getting on the plane. I just remember that's how I felt getting to China. And I moved a few times in China, and I just know I felt ready and excited for that next step. And I think that's the feeling I want when I'm leaving China. Like, I'm not like, oh my God, I have so many things I have not, like, totally... You don't have to have everything figured out, but more just, like, this sense of dread and, like, oh, I don't know if I, like, did everything I needed to do there and got it done. I want the feeling of excitement, like, oh my God, I'm moving to the next step, and, I want that feeling of, yes, this push, I'm going to figure things out as I go, or with my partner, and you know what? But we're gonna tackle it together, and there's like excitement and positivity about what we're going towards next.
Ooh,
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. Like, that's the thing that we're really excited about. Is like we built a life here, and it's always going to be in our hearts. It's like this amazing place that we first met and our first home together and stuff. But like now we're actually jumping out into like our adventure, like the next step of our adventure, and that's super exciting. It is super exciting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If the thought of, leaving China has crossed your mind, you should verbalize that to your partner, even if you've just thought about it, because it does.
That's
That's really good.
It does, yeah. It does. It does help you.
But thank you guys for joining us today, Morag and Waldo, and sharing about your experiences preparing to leave. I mean, we're really sad about it, but also very excited for you guys. Like, it's going to be so exciting to go on this together and figure it out as you go, because that's just how it goes.
That's
and you
life.
guys, and we are excited. We're going to
So
be
excited.
gutted that you're leaving, but we're excited that you're going on
Get
to
a
this
big
brand
house.
new adventure.
Get a big house in
and,
Africa, and we'll come visit you.
and we'll come visit you in the wherever you end up.
Yeah, come join us.
And thank you for listening to this week's episode of Date Night China. That's it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.